everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. It is the Aftermath with Senator Phil Perry down in Washington. Phil, did Drake Maye win the quarterback competition if it was solely up to performance this summer?
I would say he did, Tom. He's played better, I think, for longer over the course of the summer. He has played better certainly later. And to me, that equals quarterback competition victory. I don't think that means he'll play week one, though.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think that you could say, yeah, they competed. We wanted to see what kind of a competition he'd put up. And, you know, I guess if you looked at it, you could say that he won. We're still going to go with the other guy, but yeah, he probably won that thing based upon what's on the field. But we're still going to go with the incumbent, even though he's not an incumbent, because of the experience factor, which is what has been stated over and over again. Was it misleading to call it a competition if they actually competed, but the winner was preordained?
A little bit. Now, that's from my vantage point. I do not have the benefit of being in the meeting rooms. And if these guys are being quizzed, for instance, if Jacoby Brissett gets 100 out of 100 on every single quiz and Drake Maye is closer to 68%, you know, then that you could say that factors into the competition also. And so that's why they feel more comfortable with Jacoby Brissett. That's essentially what Alex Van Pelt has told us, not the whole quiz thing, but it's the mental stuff that Jacoby Brissett brings to the table that makes them feel so comfortable with him as their starter. Whereas Drake Maye is 21 years old. He's about to be 22, but he's 21 years old, and he still has a lot to learn when it comes to how to play football between your ears. And so I think they would have enough of a argument against us to say, well, the competition's happening all the time and you guys only see about 50% of it. And that's
or
why
everything's a competition. Everything's a competition. And even if he looks better for these 3 weeks, he's still not better than an 8-year veteran. And we are going to stand on that. And as a result, we're going to start Jacoby Brissett, which we do not know yet. But we've gone a little bit far afield because we haven't discussed this game yet. What did you like about Drake Maye's performance? I'll give you my 3, and you can tell me which ones you prefer. I love the third down scramble because you're in 3rd and 17, and he made a play. Felger thought when we did Sports Sunday that's basically low-hanging fruit that he took. I don't care. I like to see a guy run. I like to see him start fast, be explosive up the middle, and run with some purpose, which he always did at North Carolina. Secondarily, I love the throw everybody did to Jalen Polk on the crosser. Bedard got all giddy about it because it was running that kind of play that you're supposed to run this offense, where you go play action, turn your back to the defense, and then find your guy who's crossing. It looked like Rod Smith from John Elway. And then finally, I love the throw for the touchdown that had to travel about 35, 40 yards across the field on a line, courting disaster, but beating the cornerback there for a Kevin Harris touchdown. You had some other throws you liked too.
Yeah, I like that. I liked all of those. I like the Polk one in particular because I just think he has this subtle, innate ability to navigate the pocket. That's a hard thing. As many reps as you want to do before practice with Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo, et cetera, to be able to sense where the pressure is coming from while keeping your eyes down the field and your ability to strike down the field while moving laterally, horizontally. That's the same as laterally, Phil. North and south. You know what I'm trying to say. It's very late. It's almost 1:00 in the morning here. Around the pocket to avoid contact. Like he can do that. He did it last week. He did it again today. Like all this business of how raw he was, I think, so overstated because he showed this stuff in college. He showed the ability to sense pressure, avoid it, as Brian Hoyer pointed out to us before the draft when he watched some of his clips, and strike down the field. So I like all of that. I like the throw to Pop Douglas too because I thought he showed something similar. Again, he's drifting more to his left as opposed to navigating a muddy pocket. But these are all things he's going to have to do at the next level. And I liked we were just on with Felger on Sports Sunday. I know he didn't like the run either. What I would say in response to Mike is on 3rd and 8, if you're scrambling in preseason, that to me, okay, whatever. I think that there are very few from the pocket conversions of 3rd and 17. There's no play in the playbook that's like necessarily going to lock you down a solid 18-yard gain on 3rd and 17. It's just so hard to convert through the air in those scenarios that having a guy like that run like that is going to help you a lot when you're in those impossible down and distance situations.
I'm going to distill the quarterback conversation for week 1 down to this. You can't make a mistake that will somehow sully Drake Maye's rookie year if you sit him for September or even sit him for half of September. You can't screw him up while he watches. You can screw him up while he plays. So, the disgraceful performance of the offensive line, which is the second disgraceful performance we've seen turned in against an NFC East opponent when we include the Philadelphia Eagles joint practice. I mean, embarrassingly inadequate. They bumped into each other on a Jacoby Brissett drop back, which caused a sack, which caused a shoulder injury of undetermined severity. They stepped on Drake Maye's foot, lost his shoe. They had myriad illegal formations, myriad holds, and a couple false starts thrown in there. They don't have, well, Bedard actually blamed one of the bad snaps on Maye. I don't know. Either way, it's an adventure. And even if David Andrews is in there, I think it will stabilize things, but it's not going to fix things. I'm really continuing to circle back to the fact that you had a choice as the New England Patriots. You could stick at 3 and take the quarterback and put your chips on that, turning into something. Or you could say, you know what, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to trade down. I'm going to take a tackle, and I'm going to take a quarterback later. They put their chips on Maye, which was a tacit acknowledgement that we're going to suck on the offensive line again. So I don't care what they say. There was no tackle in free agency that they brought in. They got worse at the position with cast-offs that they used last year. They're worse than they were last year right now. So I hold Elliott Wolf primarily responsible, then Scott Peters and the players themselves, then up to Alex Van Pelt. That's a disaster on the offensive line, and it's holding the team hostage, Phil.
It's a disaster. It's stunning to me that we have another summer performance that now is rivaling what I thought was an unparalleled in its ugliness sort of offensive line showing. Like that joint practice with the Eagles should have never been touched. That should have been a runaway favorite for the worst day of the summer for the Patriots offensive line. And now there's another performance in the running here. It's incredible to me. The mental lapses that you see in the penalties, the physical lapses where you have the guys, bumping into each other. The reason they bumped into each other, Layden Robinson and Sidy Sow, was because Layden Robinson, as soon as the ball was snapped, was driven about 2 yards back into the backfield as soon as the ball was snapped against a backup. It was all backups out there for Washington today. Heavens to Betsy. Heaven forbid they actually put their starters on the field. Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen would have been throwing these guys in the first row, apparently, based on how tonight went. Like, that was atrocious physical play. And that was a screen, by the way. That was a design screen, it looked like, to Jaheim Bell. The screen is generally thought of, Tom, as a play where you're keeping the quarterback protected. You're somehow working a pass play into your offense while not really exposing the quarterback to any risk. Not with this offensive line. They'll still figure out a way to get your quarterback hit on a screen, which happened to Drake Maye in, I think, week 1 of the preseason. Vidarian Lowe somehow got him leg whipped on a screen pass. It's incredible how poor this group has been. And I don't know how you fix it or make it any better. And now I think you, my friend, you are coming to my side of the street and saying the line is so bad, you probably can't play the rookie. Am I putting words in your mouth? Because I've been saying this now for a couple weeks, and you said, hey, it's football. You're a football player.
Well, you're on my side of the street now because I said this in April. You can't support that player. Don't draft him. There's another quarterback. There's other Drake Mays out there. There's one in Minnesota who's got a bad meniscus. Sorry. That's my guy, JJ. And as Felger pointed out, again, we just came off Sports Sunday, so some of those conversations are fresh. But, you're not going to get the Indianapolis Colts cast-off to walk in here on Tuesday after he gets plucked off the waiver wire or whatever team happens to release an offensive lineman, and to have him be a magic wand over Vidarian Lowe or Chukwuekwuor or whoever you want to mention.
It's you have to consider the kind of help you might be getting. Now, another team's cast-off, this group has been so bad, another team's cast-off might be an improvement over your quote-unquote starter right now. I think it's worth mentioning, especially because I know the people listening to this podcast are very into this football team. And there was what could end up being a significant injury to a starter on the offensive line, which again is the biggest problem on your team right now. Sidy Sow left with an ankle injury, who was very quickly ruled out, which is usually a bad sign in the regular season. I don't know what it means in preseason, Tom, but he was spotted by reporters, not myself. I was out doing TV by this point. Spotted by reporters leaving the locker room in a walking boot. If he has a significant ankle injury, it's going to keep him out for, say, it's a month.
And it was non-contact.
I'm guessing.
Ankle.
I don't know that. But
if we want to recklessly
speculate,
speculate,
Michael Jordan, who's
just to recklessly speculate for a moment.
But I'm
ankle's
already
right
there.
near the
And you got Michael
Achilles.
Jordan starting at guard.
Sorry, I talked over you a couple times there. We're going to leave that in just to
No, it's okay.
show people
It's not the
how
96 Bulls, though. It's the
ridiculous
2024
I am
Patriots.
as a
You don't want
host.
Michael Jordan starting at guard.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, 6'6", from North Carolina. How tall is he? And where did he go to school? All right, Phil. Could Drake Maye be a better option if the offensive line's a disgrace? I mean, at least he can get out of stuff, scurry around, make people miss.
100%. He's their best option with a bad offensive line. But the question again is, are
To
you
what
trying
end?
to win games this year?
Yeah, to what end?
You're not trying to win games.
Yeah,
I mean,
break his clavicle, and
shouldn't
then
say
what
that.
are we doing?
You're trying to win games while also protecting and developing your most important person in your organization right now, and that's Drake Maye.
When the NFL as an entity and all its fans and all the players tune in to watch a game like this on prime time on NBC and see what Jacoby Brissett was subjected to, does that do much for the team and the franchise in the eyes of fellow players around the NFL when they look at this team? I mean, we've talked a little bit about this team rehabilitating its, Q rating around the NFL. I don't think guys are going to look around the league and say, shit, get me to New England in a hurry. Could have some fun there. I mean, he was cannon fodder. Brissett.
Yes. No, they're not saying that, but I will say this: former player Randy Moss, pretty good former player, tweeted, "The young fellow looks pretty good, doesn't he?" Or
Let's
something along
piggyback
those
that.
lines in response to a Patriots tweet.
Let's piggyback that with some sound from Devin McCourty on the telecast. At about the 13-minute mark of the fourth quarter, he came in and he talked at length about the quarterback decision facing former Quick Slants co-host Jerod Mayo. This is, again, former Quick Slants co-host Devin McCourty speaking on this topic.
Chris, and I'll take it a step further. The guys in the locker room, I think the way Drake Maye has performed in these last two games, it is going to get some guys, I think, especially when you're on the defensive side of the ball. You're not in all the meetings. You don't hear all the coaching points, but you see it. You're watching the game, and I think if he continues to go out there and do, this in practice next week, where they have this kind of bye week, I think there will be some guys on defense saying, hey, I want to see the guy out there now, and I think that adds even more to this story.
I've been of a mind, maybe obviously erroneously to an extent, to say, you know what, guys on the team, they might want to see Jacoby Brissett get treated in a certain way and be deferential to him. And Devin kind of makes it clear that don't give a shit. Players on defense, they want to see who can perform. They want to see who gives them a chance to win. And I think right now, I don't think that Drake Maye is an obstacle to winning. Might be against the ones of Cincinnati or New York or San Francisco, but I don't think he would be an impediment to winning.
Meaning what?
Meaning I don't think that he would hold the offense hostage in a way that would. And you know what? He could have a 5-pick game, and I'd be eating my words. But I just don't think that he is going to play like Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold.
But does that mean you believe Jerod Mayo will want him to play week 1 then?
Nah, I think a portion of Jerod Mayo would want him to play week 1, but I think a bigger portion of Alex Van Pelt will insist on Jacoby Brissett. And this is pure speculation. I think Alex Van Pelt will virtually insist on it because he thinks it makes the most sense and it's the safest thing to do, and it doesn't screw up the kid, and it doesn't hose Jacoby, and it gives him the best opportunity to get into a rock fight with Cincinnati. We're not going to turn it over. We're going to manage the game on the ground. We're going to screen the shit out of them. We're going to punt it with Bryce. Big game for Bryce Behringer. And we're going to try and keep this thing tight. Now, if we start to get our doors blown off, maybe we see how Drake does in the second half, where he's just dropping back and winging it all over the place. But we're going to start the season with Jacoby Brissett under center. And man, I'm like, yeah, all right, I get you. It makes sense. Wow, Phil, look at Phil's rippling muscle just emerged on the Zoom.
Here's what I believe is going to be really hard for Mayo. He knows what Devin McCourty knows. He knows, especially having led that defense over the last couple years when the quarterback play has been atrocious, and it's put the defense continuously in bad situations, and it's forced them to look worse than they actually are. Despite having pretty good numbers last year, they were better than those numbers because they had the worst field position, I believe, the worst average starting field position in football last year. And if it wasn't the worst, it was second or third. So does he, having those experiences still fresh in his mind, does he look at Alex Van Pelt and say, listen, I know what the plan is, and I know the plan has not been to play Drake Maye, but Jacoby hasn't been good, period, point blank. Now he's dealing with an injury. Drake Maye has been good, and everybody can see it. And he's actually even better than we thought in terms of being a fit for us because our line is so bad. We need somebody who can move like Drake Maye. So I know what you think, Alex, but I'm the head coach. It's my team. I know what all those players in that locker room think. And maybe even more importantly, I know what they will think if I choose Jacoby Brissett as our starting quarterback for week 1, and it won't be good. So I'm going to make the call here. I'm the head coach. I'm your boss. This is why I get the big bucks. And Drake Maye is going to be our starter. Do you think he might do that? I think that's potentially in play, Tom, because he's been so vocal.
I think it is too, because
the standard of competition, and whoever the best player is has to play.
Yeah, I think there was an exceptional amount of fatigue. We heard it throughout the year last year. Who was it who spoke eloquently to you after a game? Which defensive lineman? I can't remember. Oh, Godshaw.
Vaughn Godshaw was great.
Yeah, they talked about just how friggin' exhausting it was defensively to know that you were cooked and had to pitch a shutout. And that was exhausting for the coaching staff as well. So you have a defensive head coach who has been on the receiving end of zero offensive support. Seeing the at least promise of a kid who might be able to rip it down the field even if the offensive line is a disaster. We undersell how good Mac Jones was and selectively remember the Cowboys game and don't remember the Bills game from last year. But I just don't. There are elements to Drake Maye's game that are obvious already now on August 25th that after 3 years, Mac Jones couldn't do, and he won't be able to do them in 3 more. And as a result, he's a better fit for a shit team. Mac Jones was a horrible fit for a shit team. Drake Maye might be a bad fit for a good team right now because he'd hold him back a little bit. And Mac Jones might be a better fit. But right now, if you need a little bit of a magician on a shit team, Drake Maye might be the answer. And maybe Jerod Mayo could see it that way.
He might. Because it's easy for you and me to say, the offensive line is such a scary proposition. It's such a scary proposition. But any quarterback that you really, truly value for the long term behind that group, it's harder for him to do that because of the other human beings involved. So I want to ask you the question that I asked Jerod Mayo, which is, if Jacoby Brissett's your starting quarterback and he gets injured, which is what we saw tonight, would Drake Maye play if Brissett was unavailable?
I would like to sit here and say 100%. He's our second best quarterback on our roster right now.
He said he's our second best quarterback. I don't know. Essentially, he was non-committal in his answer. What do you think that means from him?
That means,
because I think it means if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, they would seriously consider not playing Drake Maye.
I think it means to me, of course he'd play. He's our second best quarterback. But I can't say that because we don't have the depth chart out, so I'm going to put the brakes on this answer right now. And I'm just going to say I don't know. So I think that you probably did the thing that we're supposed to do as reporters and asked a question that he didn't anticipate coming. And once he started answering it, he said, you know what, I better put the brakes on this thing because what if we want to keep Bailey out there and send him out there and Acme like Wile E. Coyote.
You might be right. You might be reading between the lines more clearly than I am.
Let Bailey take the
That would
anvil.
be the kind of answer that I would give, I think. It would be the kind of answer I would give if I had already considered this and I knew I would prefer to play, for example, Bailey Zappi, practice squad or Bailey Zappi before I play Drake Maye behind a bad offensive
imagine
line.
then, though, because that does fly counter to what we were just talking about. Because if he thinks that the team might get a little pissed off at him for starting Jacoby Brissett over Drake Maye, they might pick at his office if he starts Bailey Zappi over Drake Maye.
You're right.
So, no, it's got to be if Brissett's hurt, Drake Maye plays unless Gardner Minshew gets released because that's the best quarterback in the league.
I think you're right. It's got to be Drake Maye, and because you're right. It's still so fresh for so many of those guys. Think about all those defensive players that were on this team last year and 2 years ago and a year before that. It's like they are not going to deal with that. I do think it's a consideration you have to make as a head coach. It's all well and good to be like Mr. Stoicism and Belichick could make some really hard decisions that really didn't factor in how the locker room was going to feel. Those were much different teams, and he was in a much different spot when he made a lot of those decisions than Mayo is now. I think you have to take into account the feelings of the locker room as you're trying to get something established here. I really think that should be important to him.
Yeah, and you got to be right about it. I mean, when you're passing over Bledsoe for Tom Brady, and Bledsoe's played in the Super Bowl and been a 3-time Pro Bowler and is a $100 million contract, that's dancing on a razor's edge as opposed to a guy on a 1-year contract making $8 million and the other guy was taken third overall. You know, it's just a matter of time. It's just you're saying, not this time. Phil, oh, my goodness. That one snuck up on me. Holy crap. I've been having a good time with this pod, so all my listeners out there, all of our listeners, we appreciate endlessly. I apologize for the fit of fatigue that just hit me, and we will talk to you soon. Tuesday's cuts. Is Keishon Boutte going to get cut, Phil?
I think so.
All right, we'll talk about it Tuesday.